Alright, everybody. So, this is a particularly hard one for me to start off with because, well, religion isn't exactly a light dinner conversation subject. But, today, a man named Bahá'ullah went among his friends in the gardens of Baghdad in 1863 and declared that he was the next manifestation of God. Like, imagine that being your dinner subject. But he was already a Babi, and what that means is that from the religion of Sufi Islam, I believe. Now, a lot of this overview that I'm going to be starting for my most ambitious project ever, a neutral and very attempting to be unbiased overview of the Baha'i Faith, the smallest religion in the Abrahamic tradition, and one that you likely have never heard of. Basically, the hard part to begin with it is that it does need a lot of context. These readings that I'm doing for this research for this documentary are 58 tabs long. And many of these are very, very, very long documents. Oh, you know what? I think I forgot to get rid of this active quest. That's okay. I will go on to my other marker, because I'm just wandering the wasteland today and talking. Anyway, so this won't be like the most sourced thesis statement ever, but it will be something that I will use to shape the direction that this is going in. And basically what's happening is, from Sufi Islam in 1844, a man named the Bab proclaimed himself to be he who is the gate. Basically, he was before the person who's supposed to be the next manifestation of God, after Muhammad. Basically, Abrahamic religion is very, very concerned with hierarchy and succession, at least after Judaism.
The Caesar has marked you for death, and the Legion obeys. Ready yourself for battle.
I'm just trying to talk about a very sensitive subject like religion. Can you please leave me alone, Caesar's Legion? What was that? Oh boy. Okay. I did not expect to be fighting the Legion today. Thank you for joining the stream, Judy. This is quite the interesting subject, and I chose New Vegas for this because it definitely concerns itself with religion, at least at the point of Joshua Graham's reveal, which I have got into almost, but I haven't quite got into survival perk for that. Oh no! That guy is just tanking my... Oh, let me... Oh boy. Well, yeah, that was quite the battle, but anyway, let me just travel to there, because I'm trying to get to Boulder City. Thank you for liking the live, by the way. So, now that I know that the Legion is about to attack me, I am going to be very quick about this. Basically, on this day in 1863, for those of you who are just joining me, a man named Mirza Yahya Ali, I believe.
The Caesar has marked you for death, and the Legion obeys.
Oh, goodness.
Ready yourself for battle.
It's hard to look up these kinds of pronunciations of names, so while I'm battling for my life against the Legion, so I'm trying not to... Okay, basically, he proclaimed himself to be the next religion after Islam. And for that reason, he was exiled into Baghdad for a while. And his family had to wait for him for 3 years while he was in prison. But this started in Iran, basically, and it is an interesting one because for the time it was very progressive. Oh, I forgot I had no ammo in this thing. Perhaps this wasn't the best game to be talking about quiet subjects, but I am planning on making actual overview episodes of the facts of everything related to the Baha'i Faith, and some of that may not be cheap, so if you can give me gifts for the live, I would appreciate that. If you're interested in learning more about the history of religion after Islam, because that's... Okay, I'm really trying here to concentrate, but it is very hard with the Legion on my tail. So why talk about a religion from more than a century ago? Well, the simple reason is that it's still affecting a lot of things today, and its influence is very much unknown. Both for good and, in many cases, with the leadership of it for ill. Because, well, its relative obscurity has allowed it to suppress criticism. And I don't say this out of any, like, malice towards Baha'is, because I was very closely associated with it, even though I was never a member myself. That has profound impacts on someone. I mean, to say that the Baha'i writings, which basically they teach that all of the world's religions were the same, but then got diverted by people arguing over interpretation, that makes a lot of sense in an abstract way. Their espousal in the 19th century of Persia of equality of men and women and equality of the races was very advanced for the time in that area, though not unheard of for the area either, or just the world. So I wouldn't personally say that he is a divine author, i.e., well, let's talk about what Baha'is mean by that. A manifestation of God is basically a mirror of God. They don't claim that he was God. They just claim that he mirrored godly quality. Oh dear. Godly qualities. Can you leave me alone for 2 seconds? Wow. Okay. I think part of the reason I chose this game, too, will become clear later in the stream, so please stick around and be sure to follow and give me anything that you think would be helpful for my mission to bring truth to the world. A little hard to focus on that right now while I'm trying to stim pack myself in a video game, but it'll become clearer later once I'm more into Wasteland. So, the reason why I'm talking about this is because I think it would be really interesting for a lot of people to know more about the history of religion and of the Middle East as well. Whether you're a Baha'i or not. And whether you agree with the Baha'i Faith or not, it needs to be better understood in order to educate people. Which they say education is a good thing too, and that, you know, if a family only has money for one person to go to school, it should be the girl. Which, again, fairly radical for the time, so there was definitely a lot of opposition in Muslim circles for many reasons. One of which being that they generally tend to claim that that Muhammad was the last prophet. It's like Abrahamic religions have this obsession with being, like, the best out of this line. except for Judaism, they just kind of do their own thing, and they're shrugging at the people who are, like, claiming to come after them. Except when they have to react otherwise, due to persecution. But anyway, so Bahá'u'lláh teaches throughout the Ottoman Empire while being moved around from Baghdad to Constantinople to Adrianople, and then finally to Acre, where... Oh no! I bit it. Arg. So after that point, he dies in Acre in 1892, and his son Abdulbaha becomes the... Oh dear, that's quite a bit of progress lost. Becomes the master. Basically like the successor appointed hereditarily to attempt to guard against misinterpretation by having the son, or... yeah, the son and grandson and whatever of Baha'u'llah actually interpreting things rather than having factions. That's what their claim is. I will investigate that more later, because the Baha'is say you should independently investigate religious truth for yourself. And again, that's a pretty radical idea, considering that many religions still try to convince you that if you're not one of them, you will go to hell. I never really bought that, even as a kid, but I was very nervous about it anyway, because what Catholic kid wouldn't want to go to heaven and see their Nana? You know? Like... these kinds of things are very powerful motivating factors, and the Baha'is don't really have that. Which means that their religion is... in public, their behavior is pretty commendable. I never once had any really, truly negative interactions with a Baha'i person. I may have disagreed with what they were saying. I may have... therefore had an argument with them, and sometimes those arguments got slightly heated, as you'll understand later, but they have never given me cause for alarm based on personal conduct. It's more just that I think that their teachings of unity of religion and gender equality and racial equality and other equality and such come with a lot of asterisks in practice. Oh! In practice. Because after Abdul-Baha died in 1921, after taking the savvy decision to capitalize on the wave of progressivism in the West, and spread the religion to the West where it might be a bit more receptive, and got quite a bit of attention for that in the press around 1912 or so. Almost actually went on the Titanic, which would have probably been bad for him. That was pretty lucky. Anyway, so Cowboy Repeater should do the trick with the Legion. But I'm also hoping they may not be here anyway.
Prim is a new sheriff.
Oh boy.
The Kaiser has marked you for death.
Oh,
and the Legion obeys.
leave me alone,
Ready yourself for battle.
Kaiser. I'll talk more about New Vegas stuff in a minute. But the game is not really a point. I'm just randomly interacting with things in order to have some background while I talk about things. Maybe reflect in the desert. That was the idea anyway. Before they just decided, no, this is a video game live stream and you're supposed to do that. Again, this is more of a thesis statement that's being built in progress at the moment. Rather than a thoroughly sourced introduction, which I will make later. But essentially my thesis statement is that the Baha'i Faith has a lot of interesting things to say, but it comes with a lot of asterisks. Everything wants to eat me, apparently. No! Oh, goodness gracious. This game might not have been the best way to talk about that sort of thing, but I'm gonna probably fast travel somewhere else then. Or, you know what? I'll place my marker here and discover a new location. There we go. Hopefully this will be a little calmer so I can actually get to my points. For the actual explanations with, like, sources and things from the Baha'i Faith, as well as people who criticize it from ex-Baha'is, one of whom I'm personally in contact with and will be interviewing at a later date, to a gay Baha'i, to Christian, secular, Islamic sources of disagreement. That's what I'm going to try to do. This is my most ambitious project ever, and it may be a little bit messy because I haven't done something of this scale before, but I've been very fascinated by the Baha'i Faith for a long time. And the reason is that when I was in college, I was very disillusioned with religion. I had grown up Catholic, but pretty quickly saw through the holes in the Bible, even at 8, which tells you something. And also did not like their anti-gay marriage stance or their doing stuff to kids. So I concluded that this old tottering hierarchy, in 2010 I concluded this, and it's only gotten worse from there, even with the addition of a cool old pope with a puffy AI sweater. That it just wasn't working for me, and that any god that said that this was the truth was probably not real. I mean, it was a pretty hard process for me to go through that sort of thing.
The power transmission cables are all underground. Good thing, or the war might have knocked them down.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. Anyway. I get very reflective when I'm just walking around in video games. So that's why I chose this game. Again, with the hope that I wouldn't get randomly attacked, but that, lesson learned. I'm still very new to all of this. This is still very early on in the research process. But my thesis is this. Again, the Baha'i Faith has interesting things to say, but there are always asterisks. Their stance on the equality of men and women has an asterisk that they're not allowed to serve in the highest echelons of power at the Universal House of Justice. Their advocacy of inclusion, in general, is tainted by the fact, in my opinion, as an atheist outside of the Baha'i Faith, who investigated it, got pretty close to converting despite my people around me being worried it was a cult, which it is not, I don't think. There are definitely some concerning factors that I'll try to get into in a later episode of this show, but the Baha'i Faith is simply a religion like any other, and that is both good and bad, because, like, well, a religion like any other means, like, there are cool people that you can meet there, and, you know, if you just go to a Persian New Year party, a Nowruz party, and have some cool food with a friend who tells you this is what they believe and stuff, then you're unlikely to find anything bad. It's when you get inside that perhaps what an ex-Baha'i called the panopticon of Baha'i control actually happens. What? Super mutants! It's a good thing that your armor isn't immune to lasers for some reason. Ah! Whew, that was close. Okay, so, back to it. Part of the reason why they are so, like, nice-seeming is because they are. Like, again, the people I have never had a problem personally with a Baha'i. So I'm not, like, making this polemic, which is a critical document of a religion, to be, like, a contrarian or just mean to Baha'is in general. I know Baha'is still, and I would never think that way, but I've explained my positions before and why I didn't convert to them, and they accepted that, to their great credit. It's again that I think I missed something that could have been really catastrophic for me personally if I had joined. Because again, at this time I was 18 in 2010, 11, and was very much looking for a sense of community. So then I meet this cute girl in college, and she gives me a book called A Thief in the Night. And it purports to be a history of the failed prophecies of 1844, i.e. that biblical numerism, which was a popular idea at the time, that you could use math to decide how the Bible could be interpreted, and predict the future. Like, that people who waited for Christ were incorrect, according to this book, because he had already appeared in Iran. And said that there would be somebody coming after. What? Invisible super mutant!
Stay out of the control room and enclosure, or there's gonna be trouble. Got it?
I think there's already trouble! I think there's already trouble! Seriously! Ow! 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 Can you not, Nightkin, please? I would like for that not to be the case. Thank you. Oh, I've been using way too much laser ammo. But bumper sword! Oh, that's cool. Anyway. So, part of the reason that I picked this game to stream with, instead of just any old random game, even though it probably would have been quieter, and I could have made my points better. What the heck? Oh, no, 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 no. How dare you? Is that, this is going to be spoilers for the Fallout show, but basically Vault-Tec is like, everything will be perfect when we're the only faction left. And that's kind of what the Baha'i Faith believes, to some degree. It's less sinister than it sounds, I think. But it definitely is concerning. Because I'll get more into that later, as I try to flee from this situation. Whatever it is. What even hit me? Anyway, I'm just gonna... Alright, let's see... Oh, okay. There. Yeah. I do like the limb system here. It's just kind of interesting how this game handles periods of calm. I thought there would be periods of calm at all. Anyway. I'm just glad I never got into the Baha'i Faith myself, because I realize now that I am a pansexual transgender person, and I don't think either of those qualities would have been entirely welcome. Because if you're homosexual and a Baha'i, you're supposed to remain celibate. Is the rock shooting me? What is going on here? Oh, probably shouldn't. Need to, yeah, there we go. Alright, well, that's quite a bit of progress to lose. But let's keep going with this, because I'm interested now. Hidden value. I wonder if it has ranch. And why it's just neutral when perhaps there's something to be discovered in Hidden Valley. Well, you know, they call their one of their writings, there are many, the hidden words. And without a script, it's really hard to get into those specifically, but there are all sorts of writings, and many of them are very long. Again, the large, broad outlines of the Baha'i Faith seem like they're perfectly good on the surface. The equality of men and women, inclusion of the races, and such. But again, it always seems like there's just a little asterisk with them. I.e. that they want everybody to be included as a Baha'i. That again, the only way to peace is if we win. And they believe that they will win. Or at least the administration does. I'm not sure how many Baha'is have really deeply read a lot of the writings. I mean, there are a lot of them, again, and those are the ones that we have translated, which is another problem, because the current leadership is 9 old men in Haifa, Israel, which is another thing that the Baha'i Faith has been accused of to varying degrees, of being too comfy with Israel.
The Caesar has marked you for death, and the Legion obeys. Ready yourself for battle.
How about... No. Oh, okay, so this was gonna happen eventually. But I'm gonna try and find somewhere else to go. Maybe if I travel to Ranger Station Alpha when the Legion attacks, they will attempt to protect me. I mean, when I was at Ranger Station Alpha, I may have stolen some stuff, but nobody can prove it, so it doesn't matter, right? It only matters what you can prove. So I'm just gonna... Okay, that quest is just there. I tried the power plant quest for a while, I just couldn't really get into it. It's very puzzly, and it seems like now what's preventing me from completing it are a bunch of skill checks layered on top of each other. This game was made in 18 months. They had to add some skill checks in order to not have people just blast their way through everything. I get it, but... Okay, Boulder City. Time to discover you. As you pop into the distance. Anyway. Part of the problem is that there is so much that's hidden about the actual teachings of the Baha'i Faith. Part of the problem is that what is known is very ossified. Again, it sounds very nice to have equality of the races until you realize that Abdulbaha, the second person in charge of the thing, thought that people in the Sudan ate each other. Which, like, what? That's never been proven. Like, they had all sorts of weird ideas about history and evolution. Such as that man always was never descended from apes. Like, that they may have evolved, but that we were always people. And that is not something that science supports. I understand why they believe this, because they want to believe that they have an advantage over just pure scientific thought in terms of explaining the world, but a lot of times when religion claims to embrace science, it usually just embraces the parts of science that it likes and discards the rest. Especially when there is an incentive to do so in that you believe that you're protecting the world. I have started to realize that again, another line from the Fallout show of everybody wants to save the world, they just disagree on how. That makes sense. Like, and again, the Baha'i Faith doesn't have any enmity towards people of other religions. That is literally one of their deals. It's just that, again, there's always just been some sort of sense of uneasiness that I've had in Baha'i gatherings of, like, these people seem too nice. There has to be a catch. And again, maybe in their personal lives they hide a lot of things because we're all human and stuff. And you know what? I do have some problems with some individual Baha'is who... Remember that cute girl from earlier in the stream? She eventually became my girlfriend, and we wanted to live together before marriage, and that was not allowed, so we got some phone calls about it. And that was not fun for either of us. I don't want to talk too much about my personal connection to it all, but there were definitely some odd moments, and this was one of them. Oh. Okay, well, I see. That I did discover this one already. But it's time to place a marker here, and then just try to set off. The Peace of the Rubble. Well, I did forget to mention that Baha'is believe that they will win in the end, that their religion will become the world religion by virtue of the fact that everybody else will be dead. Well, okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but they believe that there's going to be a calamity eventually, where then lots of people will join the Baha'i Faith, and then there will be a lot of opposition, and then enough Baha'is will be in their own countries to just vote out everybody else and replace the Constitution with the Baha'i laws, which include branding people on the forehead if they steal anything, cutting off hands, again if you steal anything, virginity prices. I mean, these things were written in the 1850s in Persia. There were still going to be some things that were anachronistic, but they also believe that their religion is the one that's revealed for the next 1,000 years, so tough luck, basically, if you want to come after them. Again, everybody seems to want to be the last religion. And that doesn't make any sense to me, because we should all just get along in a... not in a fake unity of religion where everybody is unified by conversion. Not in a inclusion where people have to give up love with each other for arbitrary reasons. Like, a lot of the things regarding the equality of men and women make sense on a surface level. And there are very pretty words. Like, to say that the Baha'i writings have not affected me at all would be incorrect. Because they are very pretty words. I tend to take truth from a lot of places. That is what I want to do, anyway. And while many of those quotes are hard to remember off the top of my head, which is, again, this is why it's a off-the-top-of-my-head thesis statement about the Baha'i Faith, it did influence my spiritual development by, you know, showing a new religion in an area that I had never really thought could create new religions. Who's growling at me? I don't like you growling at me. If I start moving again, will you be growling at me? Okay then. Well, let's just continue to explore New Vegas. I've been thinking a lot about the end of the world lately. In large part because there is a lot of division and strife and such. And you know what? If you take this information, critical though it may be to some degree, though I am trying to balance myself. Again, a lot of stuff was made at the time, and so I don't personally judge a lot of the things as that they say as being wrong, just outdated. And they would say, well, it's society that's outdated. And again, with all the strife and conflict in the world, it would seem that they are correct. That a lot of times we do need to make change in society in order to make it better for people. But at the same time, the way that they want to go about doing it is, again, by just teaching the faith. That's what they call proselytizing. They say they don't proselytize, but then they do anyway. And that's kind of what happened when I was, quote, seeking, which means that I was looking into it. After, again, I got a cool book that I thought it was about the general history of 1844, but was making a Baha'i argument called A Thief in the Night by William Sears. And then I looked into it, and it seemed like a really nice community of people. These people usually have services, quote unquote, as just meetings in their homes where they just talk about stuff. Milted you? Okay, poison gland, cool. But anyway, so as a result of all that, I did find, again, a new and interesting aspect of history, because some of the stuff that happened is wild. Like, I'm talking people getting assassinated and thrown in jail, and, like, all sorts of power struggles. Of course, that are inconvenient for the administration of the Baha'i Faith to talk about. And you know what? I did try to get more mainstream Baha'is online to cooperate with me and to give their perspectives for this. I'm still gonna keep looking, because I think they're out there, but they're not on Reddit, which is usually where I seek to talk to people about these kinds of sensitive things, because I can write them instead of saying them and making some mistake. Like, I think I regret being so strident in arguing with a Baha'i one time about homosexuality once I found out that it didn't allow for gay marriage. That was something that really fired me up at the time, because I had a friend who had two moms, and I had a gay friend, and so I was very fiery young liberal too about, like, oh, you're outdated and old and blah blah blah. That's just kind of what happens with young atheists, though, sometimes, it seems. Ooh, card. Nice. Alright, well. I gotta unencumber some things. Oh no, what am I... Oh, 2 pounds? Not bad. Oh, oops, I got addicted to steady. Oh. Oh boy, yeah, this is not gonna be good, is it? At least the Legion hasn't come after me yet. As if. Alright, let's see. Oh, this is what I wanted to use to repair with. Okay. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Seems like this is the place to shoot to get rid of them. Anyway, so... in the Baha'i Faith's defense, it is not trying to be a in vogue religion. It is a religion that claims to have its own truth, and every religion does ask you, or every creedal religion does ask you to give up something. Because if you could just do whatever you wanted without question, then what would be the point? But the thing is that I argue that there is no need for creedal religion anymore, i.e., a specific set of beliefs that everybody in a community has to accept. What? What was that? Boom boom pow. Indeed. goodness gracious. And I think that sometimes again, the public perception of the Baha'i Faith is very warm and fuzzy, and we're all united and such. And again, maybe that's just how people are. They don't think too hard about the actual, like, administration of their faith. But basically, there is a group of people inside of what they claim to be a unified organization that has ruthlessly gone after anyone who criticizes it, especially online, that has claimed that there are no factions in the Baha'i Faith when there are, because basically how they came to be is that there was supposed to be a semi-monarchical line of interpreters for the faith that simply never happened because abdulbaha was, let's see, steady. Oh, I lost carrying capacity, that's why. Huh, due to drugs. Let's see. Ooh! Boom goes the dynamite. Or rather, the frag grenade. Oh, but I am still very slow. Can you, like, not... For the actual overview where I talk about the origins, in specific of the Baha'i Faith, I will be playing a lot calmer game than this, for sure. Because I don't think that is quite the right game for this. I want to go over with Microsoft Flight Simulator and fly over important areas in order to be able to teach people about these things. Perhaps even have interviews, but, well, that will take time, and a lot of research, again, just to make sure that I'm getting as much of my facts right as possible. Because in this thesis statement, I can be a little bit pedantic in a negative way. Like, really just laying on my criticisms of the Baha'i Faith. It's this sense of enforced unity that bothers me, because I don't like dogmatism in the slightest. Oh boy. This is gonna be a bit tough for me. No! Fatality. Oh well. And again, it's tricky to talk about this, because I was married to a Baha'i for 6 years. By the time we got married, she was pretty much done with that community, and I think part of it was my arguments about, like, well, if every religion is supposed to be the same at its core, why are there so many contradictions between them, and why did God make such a contradictory nature for, quote, himself? That's what bothers me, is, like, anytime there's logical contradictions, because I'm sorry, if you're claiming to have a message from the author of the universe, you cannot make any mistakes. Your religion must not have any mistakes, and everybody who follows it must be perfectly understanding of that message. Like, I don't understand why there is such confusion if it's a divinely ordained thing. It doesn't make sense until you consider that it's just people. Oh, that's... I did not necessarily want to travel to the power plant, but since I was planning on going to Hidden Valley anyway, I don't mind not necessarily gaining a bunch of progress in this, because I was breaking my brain trying to do a puzzle in this very power plant, and it was not the greatest to be looking for random stuff on the floor, only to be told to go back. In any event, a lot of the reason why the Baha'i Faith has affected me so personally is because of the fact that I basically was one by association due to being married to a Baha'i. That meant that I did go to their meetings, I did go to Nowruz parties, I did feel welcome in that community, but again, it was very much like a, quote, everyone is welcome on the sign, where implicitly, eventually, if you're associating with these people long enough, you're kind of expected to either believe what they do, or just smile and wave, which, like, I don't know if I ever really should have. That's a pretty bold statement for me, but considering that I ended up spending a decade of my life entangled with another person, only for us to realize that we really weren't a good fit to each other, it's probably for the best that I start thinking about, like, what could have been different. I mean, not to the point where I am thinking, oh, everything was regret and that kind of thing. Okay, why do I keep forgetting about my frickin' marker? Anyway, yeah, because I have wanted guidance in my life, and so it would seem to make sense that a community that would be welcoming would feel like a good fit for me. But it, again, the asterisks, the 9-pointed star was an asterisk. That's their symbol, by the way. A lot of it is about gay marriage. A lot of it is. Because they can say, oh, we just want you to give up a vice all they want, like drinking or drugs or homosexuality, but they all, and yes, you don't have to, well, if you're gay, you don't have to feel like you're alone in being, condemned for premarital sex. Well, maybe not condemned. I don't think they would take a condemning attitude, but just, like, criticized for that in the writings. It's just that heterosexual people, and even bisexual people, have a way out of that. They can get married. You cannot. That is a huge problem, because you're, again, expected to basically be a monk for the rest of your life. And many people can do that. I don't understand how. I have always just had a very high interest in meeting and getting to know and kissing people. Like, just people for who they are. And I'm currently in the very early stages of dating an amazing trans femme woman who came over all weekend. And we had a lot of fun. And it was between two adults who deeply loved each other. Because I think it has been pretty deep and fast, even though my brain is telling me, be very careful, because I've gotten my heart broken before. So perhaps, you know, they have something to it, that perhaps it's more stable to just seek out marriage. But again, they don't seem to understand that gay marriages can be as fulfilling as heterosexual ones, and that there is nothing wrong with gay people raising children, and that kind of thing. But that will be an unlikely position to change as long as the Universal House of Justice claims to be the sole representative of God on Earth. Because basically how this body works is there is elections. That sounds interesting. I've never heard of many religious parties getting elected. And in theory, the Baha'i Faith is not supposed to have clergy. They were supposed to have a guardian that would protect them from error, and then a Universal House of Justice for the legislating that he would be the head of. Like an executive versus a legislature. But not versus so much, because they don't like the idea of being compared to partisan political systems. That the old secular systems have rotted away and been not very useful. And again, they have a point. Currently, our government is very dysfunctional, but to say that Jeffersonian ideals of a republicanism and true separation of church and state. Not separation of church and state in the sense that we want to have religious tolerance now until we get power, which is a thing that is concerning about this too, because again, they want a Baha'i world commonwealth. And I do believe that a world government can help with our issues, because we had the World War I led to the United Nations, or World War I led to the League of Nations, excuse me. World War II led to the United Nations. But I really don't want World War III to be the thing that leads to the United States of Earth. But in their version, we would disagree about how that would work. Basically, they do want an elected parliament. But by the time that it gets to that point, then the majority of people will be Baha'is. And even though they apparently non-Baha'is will not be discriminated against in this Baha'i theocracy, they will be expected to be obedient to the Baha'i government as the Baha'i people are to the current governments of the world. Often, I think, to an obsequious degree. They have a very hard stance against political campaigning or involvement in politics at all. And that would not sit well, I think, with a lot of Gen Zers who want to do activism for all sorts of causes. Now, they may go and march for peace, but what are they actually doing about it? Well, as it turns out, not a whole lot. There's a lot of programs and communist-style plans. But for all the claims that it's the fastest-growing religion in the world, with inflated statistics, for all the claims that they are the ones with the divine medicine this time, it just doesn't hold up for me. And again, to a lot of Baha'is' credit, I have never felt any criticism for deciding it wasn't for me at first. However, again, once you enter and leave, I've been hearing and reading about some horrifying stories. There's a lot of profiles encouraged too, like a gay person who came to me after I asked about their previous post on something in a Baha'i subreddit, and said that they were trying to live openly gay as a Baha'i. Which is not easy, I'm sure. Because, again, you cannot legally get married, and even though they also have a rule against, wow, I really got lost. I'm back at RevCon. Anyway, even though they have a rule against backbiting, obviously people talked when me, a non-Baha'i, moved in with my Baha'i girlfriend. So, like, that's not going to happen. And, you know, then the Baha'i Faith would say, well, that's just the people. When practiced correctly, the Baha'i Faith is not any of these things. But when your leadership is this ossified, when you have elections, but they're for an elected clergy. And yeah, it is a clergy, because they basically are in office for the rest of their lives. Due to the fact that you're not allowed to campaign for Baha'i office either. Again, there are elections, but the only people who are gonna be voted in are the same people every time. For local assemblies, basically the people who organize the committees are gonna be the ones that are gonna have the most exposure. This isn't necessarily a sinister thing, this is just how this kind of thing works when you have no campaigning for office. Is the people who are... If there are no term limits, then the people who are the most active are going to be the ones who have the office holders. And again, Baha'is would say this isn't necessarily a problem because this position isn't a position of power, it's a position of service. And fair point. But when the Universal House of Justice basically never rotates out unless somebody dies, then their views tend to become ossified. And there have been many ridiculous talks on YouTube. I'm just gonna fast travel to somewhere else. That will get me closer to where I am. I apparently have rat poisoning as well, so I need to go and give myself some rat away. Or I don't have that. Never mind. I'm probably gonna need to go to a doctor. Oh right, I forgot that Good Springs is the starting area, so you're basically toast. Hello? Who are you?
Please, hurry. She's on the ridge past the broken radio tower.
Wait, what?
You just gotta help her, man.
Wait, what's going on? Was there some kind of quest that I completely forgot about? Miscellaneous. No? Huh. I do not understand. Maybe that's a glitch. Anyway. Continuing on my spiritual journey on the Wasteland Fallout, and I might make this a talk show eventually, where I end up talking about my opinions, because I eventually have become a Unitarian Universalist, I think. As a positive religious identity, not as just, hey, I'm just in this club of religions. I'll talk about why in a bit, though. For the Baha'i Faith in specific, the other thing that really bothered me from a personal perspective of the intersection of the faith in my life is the requirement to declare, verily we will all abide by the will of God. Now, obviously this had me concerned, because I am an atheist, so I asked about it, and, well, it's mandatory for everyone, no matter what they believe, for some reason. I mean, that's also the only part of the Baha'i ceremony, but, well, I had to make my humanist ceremony say, I believe in God. I think I said something different on the day of, but I still had to say I still had to sign a document believing that, and a lot of it was because I didn't want to disappoint my newfound mother-in-law, who I really respect as a person, and I'm still friendly with, despite my divorce, on occasion. I don't bear ill will towards any of these people anymore. Maybe I did in a past life, but that's all gone now. It's all so toxic, and I let it go. But it still bothers me that I was subordinated in my own marriage ceremony. I probably should have just decided to not get married then and there. If I'd known that 5 years later I would end up going through a 1.5-year long process of strife to get out from under my ex-wife and to be an authentic trans person in the world. On the other hand, if I hadn't gone through this, maybe I would have denied all these things for a longer time because I would have been more comfortable. Sometimes just blasé atheism is the province of the comfortable. And that means that, like, sometimes when you're tested, as I have recently been by bedbugs for a month, you can feel biblically punished anyway by, like, just the universe conspiring against you. And that makes you think, like, and reread some things. And again, then be like, oh, this was so cool, and then realize again why you didn't join. Because part of the other problem is that, let me get some aid in there. This should solve my woes with carrying capacity for now. Because sometimes I do carry a lot. And, you know, a lot of great Baha'i people have come and gone who carried a lot of things too in the pursuit of their true beliefs. Like, the Baha'is have been persecuted in Iran, to the point where their thrown in prison a lot for a lot of years. And many of the Baha'is that I met were either they were or they were descendants of immigrants from Iran due to the Islamic Revolution of 1979, which was very hardline and cracking down on, weirdly not Zoroastrianism, which teaches that there are two gods, one good and one evil, which actually makes a bit more sense to me than one all-loving god that just allows evil for reason. Shut up. Well, and free will, which, yeah, that's a argument that the Baha'i people put forth. Because, like, when you get down to their basic arguments, a lot of it comes down to the experience of qualia. Like, that, beauty in the world cannot be explained just by natural means, and that is just, at a foundational level, incorrect, in my opinion. In fact, it's more beautiful when things come about by accident, or by just human effort. To take that away by assigning it to an invisible force, I guess, because it's not really a personal god. It's, I suppose that if I had really wanted to, I could have just accepted that there was some sort of unknowable force. And even as an atheist now, I don't claim with 100% certainty that there's nothing out there. It's just that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and, yeah, no, it's all on you to tell me why God couldn't have just come down to Earth and just been done with it once. Like, if it really matters what religious membership you are in to be a good person, then that should have been made clear from the beginning. I as an autistic and neurodivergent person, prefer instructions that are clear and unambiguous. This is a very weird glitch with this gun, but Violent in Vegas is very glitchy, and was made by people in 18 months. Under a bunch of stressful conditions. To say that that was the province of a god by indirect virtue of having created these people would then be to take away from that, and also to minimize experiences that people went through. In my opinion, anyway. I didn't survive the darkest of thoughts because a god intervened. I survived because I survived. You know what I mean? Of course, individual strength is not nearly enough right now. And a lot of times people are just alone for a very long time, which is why partially I do these live streams, in order to help with that to some degree. At the same time, though, I do need a sense of community that's stable and long-lasting, because people do that, and I haven't gotten that from a queer bar, even though it's a very great place to go, because there's food and drink to be paid for when you go there. I mean, it's not that I would criticize anybody for that, it's just that it's very difficult to make a third space that's free and also not religious right now. And a community that doesn't demand that you believe certain things in order to be unified. That, essentially, you can independent investigation of truth your way into the Baha'i Faith, but you can never leave, is what they want you to believe. What the? Deathclaw! Oh, no! Why are you just breathing in my ear like that? Ugh. Can I do that gun against the Deathclaw? Oh no, fatality. Yeah, that was probably expected. I did really enjoy the reveal of Deathclaw skull. What was that about? Oh no! I'm probably way back here. Yeah, no, it seems like Hidden Valley is pretty tough. And not just because of the ranch. But what I will say, okay, let me get back on my train of thought. Before a Deathclaw murder me. Well, I do want to say that it is pretty cool that they are going to have Deathclaws in Season 2. And then we're going to New Vegas! Sorry if that's a spoiler if you haven't seen the show, but I'm just so excited to be talking about this in Fallout New Vegas specifically, because there were a bunch of glitches that made me worry I couldn't play this game. But I think this is a good just game to talk about things and to really explore things, because I really got into Fallout because of New Vegas when I was a teenager watching Tobuscus play it. And that probably planted the subconscious idea that I wanted to be a creator one day, and now I am. A small one, but one with, I think, good ideas for the world, nonetheless. And one of those is making a more neutral / polemical series of videos about the Baha'i Faith. Again, not trying to be the most comprehensive documentary, Geno Samuel style, because if you think Chris Chan has 85 parts, this would probably need like 150,000 parts to cover every little detail and still not get to the point. But I think I can provide a good overview for people who are not aware, because I have been made aware. It is something that, again, I have mixed feelings about. Because, on the one hand, it teaches a lot of good things in isolation, but on the other hand, it very much restricts members' freedom. Not, again, necessarily in a cult-like way. But, because, like, you're not prevented from having your finances. You're not isolated from the rest of society, and there is no single charismatic leader. But on the other hand, when there are those Baha'is who believe in a single guardian that should be there, but the UHJ has declared that Shoghi Effendi, who died in 1957, was the first and only guardian of the Baha'i Faith, and now they're in charge. And then suppress those they suppress those people by declaring them, quote, covenant breakers. The Baha'i Faith starts to just look and sound like every other religion in the Abrahamic tradition of supremacism. That's what needs to go away for unity to be a thing. We have to stop with, well, we're all one and equal and stuff, but only if you agree with me. And again, to a large extent, the Baha'is do not mind if you're not agreeing with them. They just kind of also believe that we're all gonna die if we don't embrace the Baha'i Faith. And you know what? Again, if they really believe that this is the best way to go about it, and you want to look into the Baha'i writings and you feel that way, I'm not gonna be mad or feel like, grr, how dare this person, because they're going to a cult and blah blah blah. I'm not that stringent like many of the other online critics of the Baha'i Faith, many of whom are ex-Baha'is, and maybe slightly embittered. They have every right to be, because they have basically been contacted, in some cases, by the Baha'i equivalent of the Stasi, the Baha'i Internet Service, is the secret police that prevents criticism from Baha'is online from really leaking out, and Baha'i subreddits and such from being on part of the conversation. Like, basically, it seems like the way they're going about this right now is they're just kind of turtling, trying to convert as many people as possible, and then waiting for the end of the world to work out in their favor. And again, they claim that they have the fastest growing religion at about 5 million adherents. Some say 7 million at the high end, but it's very difficult for a number of reasons, many of which are completely innocent, to count Baha'is. One is that you're not actually allowed to join the religion until you're 15. I think this is kind of a false choice, because if your main social group is the Baha'i Faith, then you're more likely to join the Baha'i Faith. It's kind of common sense. That is a good law to have, but on the other hand, it makes it very difficult to count Baha'i children, which they do encourage faithful to have, which is why they encourage heterosexual marriage, like literally every other Abrahamic religion, at its core. Because while I do understand many people wanting to change to find a Christianity that works for them in terms of sexuality, like that, where they can feel accepted as a gay person, and I'm not mad at them for that, they do have to recognize that this was not the teaching to begin with, and I think that is the case. And so there are many people like my gay Baha'i friend who want to work for a better experience for them, but without the possibility of gay marriage, seems like a bit of a lost cause. I wish him well and wish him luck in fighting with other out gay Baha'is for less stigma in the faith as a result. It's just that it doesn't really compute to call yourself a progressive religion and then not have this. And again, the Baha'is would point out, or at least the Universal House of Justice would, that, well, the age that we live in now is decadent and sexuality is too prioritized. And again, fine, cool. That's not really the fault of homosexuality, though. It's the fault of our society that's obsessed with material gain and treating sexuality like a battle to be fought and won for conquest. But that doesn't mean religion is any better about this, because treating heterosexual marriage as the only good when it comes to sexuality makes people hide, makes people afraid, and makes people marry for reasons other than love, in order to satisfy community expectations, or perhaps, or to feel normal. Again, many Baha'i bisexuals are able to do this by marrying someone of the opposite sex, but they just can't say the quiet part out loud. And as someone who came from a religion where the quiet part was not allowed to be said out loud, that just doesn't compute again. And eventually later, again, I found out that I was pansexual and transgender. And I'm so glad I didn't find these things out while in a religion, because it would have been 10 times harder. Even if they say they don't discriminate, even if they say that they don't not accept people, if they say that they love everyone, if they tell you that the kind of love you feel is wrong when it's with other consenting adults, I don't really see how that's loving or accepting or inclusive. I'm sorry, there is just no way you can convince me about that. Universal House of Justice. Or as one NPR host humorously called it, the Universal House of Pancakes. Hello? You're in the ground. Man, this game is glitchy, but I love it. I love it because it matches the atmosphere and tone of Fallout to a setting in a way that nobody else ever has. Uh-oh. Crud! Alright, I'm just gonna get Super Stim Pack. Let's go. Uh-oh. What other kind of aid do I have? Anti-venom. There we go. Poison removed. Nice. Whew, that was close. Okay. Buffo. There we go. That's what I wanted. It's really nice when you just wander around in a game and don't feel like doing anything. Sometimes. sometimes it's nice to just wander around and reflect. Perhaps the game to do that better in would have been Hogwarts Legacy, though, because that game is ridiculously easy for me right now, and has a lot of beautiful vistas I can fly over and walk around in. Perhaps another time for that. But anyway, obviously, with all that having been said, the Baha'i Faith is not the worst religion with the track record on homosexuality, or any other social issue of the day for that matter. Again, in many ways it exceeds the predecessor religions. It's just that the idea of a newly revealed religion that explains everything and always is prescient from modern times does not compute with not having... Oh, come on! Not again with this! Mind if you pause time? I'm just gonna try this again. I probably don't have very many weapons suitable for this encounter. At least that's a young Deathclaw, though. I gotta get my aid in order. Hang on. I'm hoping to, like, cripple his head or leg. Well, I don't want to get addicted, so let's do this. I'm almost done with you. Oh boy. Alright, let's figure this out. There. Okay, let's continue playing then. Alright. I can do this! I can win! Oh goodness gracious. Oh goodness! Oh dear, oh dear. Come on, I have to be able to do this, right? Okay, so perhaps laser weapons were better for this situation. Yes! I win! Okay. Phew, that was close. Not another one! Are you actually kidding me? Ah! I can't aim anything because my head's crippled. Oh, fun times! Fun times! Oh god. Oh. Well, that just about says it all when it comes to that, doesn't it? Oh, goodness gracious. It's a little bit warm in here, so I'm gonna get the AC going and drink some water. But I'll still be on mic, because that's what I'm doing tonight. Anyway, I think a lot of the reason why I do have such conflicted feelings about the Baha'i Faith is not just the personal experience, not just the lack of consistency on their positions in civil rights. It's the fact that their religious documents are so smug about it. What I mean is that they know better than everybody else about their religions. And particularly, they seem to think that anyone who thinks that material things are all there is are completely blinded. And now, there are several quotes that can be interpreted in many ways, such as, like, those who do have no belief in God being disloyal and not to trust them, but perhaps there was a specific context for that. It's just, there's also, like, several laws that people would not agree with, such as dowries and intestacy, which means, like, oh, well, in the event of my incapacitation or death, it goes to my son, rather than my daughter. Again, causing inconsistencies with the fact that this is a religion based on Sufi mysticism from 19th century Iran, with progressive ideals bolted onto it in a way that would be very hard to reconcile for a lot of people if they knew about that. What are you? Oh! Get wrecked. Anyway. And you know, I want to talk about a bit more about some of the beautiful experiences I had. Like at Green Acre in 2012 or so? I would say I was still in the seeking phase at this time, and I didn't really give up on the Baha'i Faith and therefore all religion altogether. Okay, well apparently I've gained karma. I've done nothing but lost it by stealing. But at least because this is a, alright, well, time to use some Radaway then. Ah, nice. No longer have radiation sickness. I should be hammering quick save as well, but, well, what can you do sometimes? Sometimes you just explore the wasteland, hoping to find truth, and then finding nothing but failure. I mean, it would be really nice if I could be religious with, like, all these other people who seem to get it. But I think part of it is that, ooh, Brotherhood robe, nice. I probably need to drop my laser rifle, because no, we're not. There's gotta be something else I'm missing here that, like, I can... Oh, I still have my buff out. Duh, because I already died. Let me just quick save this. Alright. Anyway. Time to wander into places where I'm totally under-leveled and then get my, Fallout's New Vegas. All over the place. But yeah, I picked this game in particular because it is very very much a source of, like, comfort for me. In this crazy world. Again, I get why people turn to the Baha'i Faith. I have no personal grudges against any specific Baha'is. I wish them all very well. And I really enjoyed my experiences, many of them. Like at Green Acre, where I got to see kids playing on the grass in the beautiful set of gardens. And then shriek with delight when a fighter jet flew over us. I believe it was a Blue Angel, and that was a pretty cool experience for me to witness as well, because I did not expect a fighter jet to be flying over me at that time. You know, that Maine trip was very fun. And it reminds me of a simpler time when I just was with my girlfriend and I got to meet her friends. Like, that, you know, nobody can really accuse me, though, of being bitter, I think. Because even though I have some nostalgia for experiences long gone, and also some annoyances at the Baha'i Faith, I don't hold, again, any ill will towards anyone of any good character of any faith. I just want to meet more of those, which is why I am going to transition just a little bit to Unitarian Universalism and how that compares against the Baha'i Faith. Because that's another thing where it kind of falls down for me. Let me see. I'm going to put this plasma rifle back and then get this laser rifle and repair you. It's just that with Unitarian Universalism, there are no asterisks. There's no, oh, you have to give this up, or oh, you're... If you're gay, tough luck, but everybody has tests. No. The way we get to unity of religion and of mankind is to destroy any sense that religion should have temporal authority over anyone. That is what these kinds of things suggest, is that any religion that claims to have a monopoly on truth, while still allowing people to investigate whatever they want, unless they're in. Again, it just settles ill in my stomach to have all these stories of people not being able to express who they are, not able to criticize the administration on reasonable things in a reasonable and restrained manner. Not being able either. Let me actually, for the 50 billionth time, remember that I should probably... Why am I hated in the correctional facility? I don't understand. And why is there all this weird gas? Oh, that's rats. Never mind. Anyway, because I haven't even gotten to the worst part yet of the Baha'i Faith, or at least of the mainstream hyphen Baha'i Faith, because I've almost forgot to mention there are plenty of other factions. Baha'is under the protection of the Covenant, the Orthodox Baha'i Faith, the Free Baha'is, the Second International Baha'i Council. Now, many of these don't necessarily have, aren't necessarily a very big deal, because some of them have, like, there are dozens of us energy. That does not mean that there is no division in the Baha'i Faith. It's just that the divisions are so small that you can afford to ignore them if you're the mainstream, because people are heavily encouraged not to stray outside the mainstream once they're in, is what I have been reading and hearing. Again, I'm glad I missed that bullet, because they would probably have told me, yeah, you know what? Tough. You can't marry a guy, because I thought I was a guy at the time. And if I came out as trans, they probably would not have allowed me to marry someone of the, quote, opposite sex unless I flipped around and got expensive surgery. They do not, as far as I understand, have any conception of non-binary people. Yeah, sure, it's nice that men and women are supposedly equal for the most part, in a religion that otherwise just doesn't allow women to have the most supreme power. I mean, there are plenty of women on plenty of institutions, they're just at the local and maybe national level. And the reason for this will become as clear as the midday sun. Oh, give me a break. I really hate it when religions explain away contradictions by just saying, "It's a mystery, woo!" Because, like, first of all, you're the one offering explanations that are beyond science and our reasonable ability to observe, as well as to logic things out as a community of humanity. Which isn't always the greatest, but is at least more testable and accountable than Guy is descended from Guy and says, "I am the manifestation of God." That is probably the biggest thing that would prevent me from just taking it on faith that Baha'ullah is who he says he is and the next coming of Jesus Christ and all that. Because I didn't like the first version. Why would you sell me an updated one? Again, I wanted to believe in an updated version that would be better. But then it didn't turn out to be. Because if I was a Baha'i and making this documentary critical of the administration, then I would be contacted by people who would then tell me that I had to change things in order to pass what's known as pre-publication review. It does not matter whether you are writing a novel or an academic paper, you still have to get your work reviewed by a committee of people who decide whether it complies with their interpretation of the Baha'i Faith. It therefore means that there's not really a lot of academic debate, and that means that academics have and continue to be hounded out of the Baha'i Faith because of a fear of disunity, causing just decline in membership because of any disunity being suppressed brutally by the administration. Now, not in the brutal sense of, like, Islam dealing with its apostates, like throwing them in prison like the Baha'is. But it seems also that the only cause that the Baha'is are really passionate about is the Baha'is. Like, we haven't really seen many Baha'is comment on Israel and Gaza because they want to appear neutral. There's not a lot of ways to be neutral in this conflict anymore. I mean, I'm very much on the side of civilians against both leaderships, and that could be considered neutral in a sense. But on the other hand, it's pretty frickin' clear that Israel is doing something wrong here, and you know what? I don't entirely blame people who think the Baha'i Faith is a bit too buddy-buddy with Israel. Abdulbaha praised the colonialism of Jewish settlers. He just did. That's a fact. He was knighted by the British Empire. He, did all these things in order to get parcels of land where his father was buried. If I understand correctly. Again, when I'm talking more about this stuff in detail, I will be sure to cite my sources more carefully, but this is more of an opener for a very, very long journey into the Baha'i Faith in a series of live streams. Oh, this valley again. Alright, well. I'm actually gonna nope out this time. Actually, you're not giving me a choice, so I'm gonna fight back. Let's see. You know what? Machete this time. I'm running low on ammo for everything, so. Serpentine! Serpentine! Oh dear. What in the world? Okay, you know what? Shotgun time. Because every time it's shotgun time. Ow! 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 Oh crap! No! Well, that was inevitable. Ugh! I keep forgetting to save this game. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I gotta refill my water. 1 second. There's a lot to get into with this topic, and I get that it's very all over the place, but my feelings on the Baha'i Faith are all over the place. Even 14 years after I first heard about it. I have decided that I will never accept the claims of a person to be the source of divine inspiration. I'm sorry. Human beings make mistakes. And Bahá'ullah was not a perfect person, so you cannot therefore claim that he is a reflection of a perfect, invisible, eternal entity. Because if anybody can do that, then I could just claim that I'm the next prophet of the flying spaghetti monster. Of course, Baha'is would say, you should know people by their fruits. And that's what I'm trying to prove, is that despite all the nice rhetoric and lovely smiles and delicious Persian food, the Baha'is may not even realize what's going on with the Baha'i Faith. Because they may not be paying attention. They're, again, not really interested in politics. And so perhaps if a couple of complainers on the internet get kicked out, who cares, right? Like, they're busy doing other things, like planning 9-year plans of expansion and such. Okay, let's see. I thought I had another laser rifle. That's okay. Though, let me think. I still have no idea how I can be hated in a location I've never been. But I'm gonna try and find out anyway. When I fast travel to here. Welcome to Good Springs, hoping for the good burger. Gosh, it's hard to realize that, things you liked in your childhood are not great, like Nickelodeon.
That takes care of that.
I don't know why I kept trying to jump on that ridge. Anyway, just going this way, I suppose. Just across the wasteland. I guess spiritually I did feel like a bit of a wasteland. Just stuff piled everywhere and pain that was buried in the sands. Now I'm unearthing that a bit more. And you know, again, in a complex way, the Baha'i Faith did help me through some tough times by just having a nice source of people to meet and some pretty words. Oh no, not this again. I was trying to figure out what to get rid of, but hey, here we go. Okay, alcohol. Which you're not allowed to drink in the Baha'i Faith, obviously. I never really got how a glass of wine on a Friday really would be a bad thing. I mean, everybody has their moments, but I think that, like, it's one thing between that and just being a full-on alcoholic. Like... Oh? Ow. Stop poking me. Stop poking me. Okay, hang on. Cause I'm a cowboy with a repeater I shoot, and I'm wanted, dead or alive. Bam. Yeah, infamy, whatever.
You like that?
How you like them apples, then?
You like that?
I really don't. And I bet you don't either. Well, I can't ask you because your head has exploded, so... There's that! Anyway. They really did a great job on the ambiance here. Anyway. So to sum up, as it's approaching the 2-hour mark, and I... basically, I've run out of things to say off of the top of my head. I'm going to try and think of some more really high-level points that I haven't mentioned. Like, again, to cover our bases here. Today is the... Let's see, what is it? 161st anniversary of Bahá'ullah declaring that he was the manifestation of God. Building on top of a predecessor religion called Bahaism that is now virtually done for, as adherents who do not approve of the claims of Baha'ullah are very few in number. Oh, crud. Ow. What kind of doggo were you? Oh, goodness. Anyway. I genuinely believe he believed he was a manifestation of God. It's not that I think he was a fraud. It's just that there is no way for a fallible human being to be claiming that they know all that when there are contradictions in what they say. When society does march ahead of them, when the structures that they put in place in an attempt to, ostensibly, keep unity, end up becoming division. I think it was Abdulbaha who said that if religion becomes the cause of division, it would be better to be rid of it. Something like that. Very similar to that, but not exactly that. I am no way making a claim that I am perfectly citing my sources right now. Nor do I claim to be a professional historian or documentarian or anything like that. This is a mission statement in a longer mission to show people the good, the bad, and the ugly of the world's smallest Abrahamic faith. because it's very difficult to have Abrahamic competition when the competition to you expanded with force. That's a part of the problem for the Baha'i Faith as well. Their time to really expand and just like absolutely dominate in a way the West came in two waves. One, 1912, when Abdulbaha first arrived in the United States and was riding off of a wave of progressivism, and had discussions that were really interesting with atheists, with feminists, with all sorts of people that would never have gotten a hearing from a religious person before that time. And yet they didn't really. I mean, they did expand, but again, there are some census problems around counting children that I've... Another problem being that today, most of Baha'is who are adherents are in India and dual count themselves as Hindus and Baha'is. Abdul-Baha said you should not withdraw from your existing churches and temples and mosques and Freemasonry associations, but then his great-nephew Shoghi Effendi, once he got into power, changed that and said, no, actually, we're a different religion, you need to leave. I think that's when it started to decline. Honestly, it was 1921 when he took power. Guy was not very ready to lead a religion. I will say that much. He was young when his great-uncle died, and there had been another Okay, so every time there's a change in Baha'i leadership, there's a power struggle of some sort. They don't like to talk about it because it is inconvenient for their particular narrative, but that things have always been united, and everybody who has tried to oppose them has been depraved covenant breakers, or at least from the inside, once they have. Because there was a particularly striking example of an Iranian guy whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, who converted to the Baha'i Faith, then converted back to Islam after writing the definitive book on the subject. That was sourced in a recent book, but not as well. Like, okay, so the book had actually been, what is going on? Why are you attacking the... What? Well, you know what? Anybody who opposes the Legion is a friend of mine. Let the dynamite fly! Because you know what? This may be perceived as too critical by many people. Just for bringing up that there are criticisms to have at all, because, well, this is their religion, and they end up defending it because they want to defend its promotion of unity! Oh dear. Well, no unity of my head and body there. Oops. Stupid Legion! Who was even shooting me there, though? Oh dear. I gotta try one more time with this. It seems like this center area is just like Doom City for me. And it's tough to criticize something like this in such a public way, because it's easier to do that behind an anonymous handle over text in an ex-Baha'i subreddit where the audience may be more receptive, and perhaps I can be slightly more acerbic than perhaps is warranted for something like this, where I am going to try my best to be more neutral. I probably should have figured out a different way to go about this, but you know what, Well, there's my grave from when I got shot at the beginning of the game, so there's that. Trying to figure out the incredibly confusing map of Fallout, New Vegas once again, to get to this home stretch. I didn't think that this would be so hard. Again, because I do have, or have had, personal relationships in the Baha'i Faith, it's hard to speak out against so stridently something that they believe in, but it's really hard to let go of the two-facedness of it all, of the we believe in unity, but only if you join us, of the we include gay people, but only if they remain celibate for the rest of their lives, of the yes, women are equal, but they can't have power on the Universal Justice, House of Justice for some reason. Just hush if you have any criticisms. And maybe this is exactly what is needed, is an outsider going in and saying, look, you got some good things going for you, but if you don't change your course, then you're unlikely to succeed. Because again, the competition, Christianity and Islam, succeeded through brutal force, through expansionism in colonial times, and settled itself geographically via that. It is very hard for a religion to peacefully expand right now. Because in the West, there is a contraction of religion towards the more fundamentalist, and also towards the more progressive. Like, there's Christianity is evolving faster than the Baha'i Faith can possibly supplant it. Because again, the time that it would have taken hold would have been 1912. There was another big movement of Baha'i converts in the United States in the 60s and 70s in response to the anti-war movement and the civil rights movement and such. And to their credit, again, Baha'is did march in the civil rights movement, so it's not like they're completely disengaged from the world, or they were, but like, there's just something more I gotta think on while I try to find my next destination here. Yeah, the problem was that there was an overfocus on expansion and control of that expansion, more importantly, as opposed to just letting people come in, and yeah, maybe it changes things, but unity of religion is not unity of ideas. It's unity of purpose. And that's where my Unitarian Universalism differs. The unity of purpose does not mean we all agree. It means that we agree to disagree. And jeez Louise! I'm just not dealing with this right now. Okay, well. It seems like maybe I need to go more on the main quest path in order to get stronger in this particular instance, but... Oh, I already looted this one, didn't I? Well, anyway. I'm just gonna keep wandering the wasteland for a little bit longer while I wrap. I am nervous to go to Unitarian Universalism Church for a few reasons, including that it can be seen as non-inclusive to some. But it depends on the particular church. What the Unitarian 8 principles are is everything I agree with, which is like independent thought and truly independent thought, not independent thought unless we say so. Because we're 9 old men who have been elected for the past 40 years and we know better than you. It means multiculturalism in a true way, not, oh, now you have to give up your previous affiliations. Unless you're in India, where they're, like, literally unable to do that, because it's a very Hindu nationalist time right now, and, again, Hinduism is very syncretic, and basically a bunch of local religions mushed together, if I understand correctly. My understanding of Vedic religions is limited, but at least I'm not claiming to supplant them either. Like the Baha'i Faith is. Like, to say that, yeah, your understanding of your own religion from an entirely different continent in an entirely different time is flawed. Again, many Baha'is may say that this is unfair, and you know what? Like, look at your own stuff, like how abdulbaha thought of Africans, about how Shoghi Effendi thought of expansionism, and thought of gay people, and thought of... when he may have been gay himself, which is another thing. I didn't really want to get into that, because I didn't want to seem like I was innuendoing the guy, but it was pretty odd that he and his wife, Ruhi, never had children. Just saying. Travel to here. Yep. Oh, goodness. Uh-oh. Well. I mean... jeez. That's what I probably should have done, is sold all the rocket souvenirs in my pants, even though they don't have weight. Trying to think of what to get rid of. That helps a lot. Probably can drop my plasma rifle for the 3rd time because I keep forgetting to save my progress in this game. Oh, I think this might have been where I got attacked by the Legion a while ago. Anyhow, one thing I would say is do not take my word for it either. Do your own research on the Baha'i Faith. It's interesting. It may not always be what it claims to be, and it may not actually be unified, and it may also be a little hypocritical at times in its pronouncements, but it's still an interesting religion if you want to know more about religion and the history of religion and comparative religion. Because it does try to have a different tack on comparing itself to other religions than most. Again, in that same sort of sly slash dystopian way of we're going to supplant the old world at some point as a religion, where the Unitarian Universalists would say, let's just be a collective of people who believe different things and get rid of hierarchy. For the most part. Like, again, there needs to be some organization for sure, but, the cause of division clearly is very much religion in a lot of the world. And more religion is not the solution. It's more community. It's more reaching out across faiths. And I think the Baha'i Faith would agree with that. It's just that, again, these kinds of positions cause a cognitive dissonance when they also want to end up ruling the world. But it's not in a sinister way, which I'm trying not to convey it being in a sinister way either. It's just a way. It's just saying that, yeah, we have the answers, the old world is going to die at some point, and then we're going to need to do our jobs and be better people for the world. That's one way to look at it, but again, it just has slightly dystopic implications about what would happen to get to that point, and about what life would actually be like when there's no separation of church and state anymore. They claim that concepts like that, like separation of church and state, and skepticism of, and unquestioning skepticism, well, not unquestioning skepticism, that makes no sense, and I'm trying to find the word here. Like, constant skepticism of all authority is not correct either. Which basically means that my brand of secularism, that is very much based in American constitutional idealism, which has been very much under threat, but still thinks that checks and balances and free press and truly free thought are important to a society, to then hear, well, we're all unified, but some are more unified than others. It reminds me of Animal Farm. It reminds me of 1984, where they doublespeak. Again, this isn't largely the fault of ordinary Baha'is you meet on the street, if you do meet any. Because they are pretty rare, and their numbers are not very strong. One news report from ABC News that in Australia, their ABC News, which is different than our ABC News in the United States, that I listened to recently, claimed that there were 177,000 Baha'is in the United States. The last I checked, the 2006 membership rolls were 30,000. And when I went to my particular local Baha'i center, they told me about 300. In a major city. And this is registered people, not active members. I mean, the reason why the Baha'i Faith is the most geographically spread out religion in the world is because you only need 9 people to make a local spiritual assembly, so I believe that the local community where my mother-in-law lives, there are 12 Baha'is, and 9 of them are on the spiritual assembly, so, like, it doesn't take a lot to start up a Baha'i locality, but, oh dear, I'm really running out of bullets there. Goodness gracious. Always keep coming across Helios 1, don't I? That frickin' power plant. It just keeps never leaving me alone. I keep not discovering this location because I keep forgetting to save. But again, this journey was not really about the destination, it was more about the journey and the view allowing me to reflect. Though, again, probably not the game to do that completely peacefully in. Maybe something, again, like Hogwarts Legacy or Mirror's Edge Catalyst would be more suited to a peaceful soapbox of opinion. Because, yeah, this is very much opinionated. My opinion is that the Baha'i Faith is incorrect. Because all religions are incorrect about their assertions. Because they have failed to meet the burden of proof, which is 100% for me. God would literally have to tell me in unambiguous terms that he exists for me to believe it. Even then, I suppose I might doubt that, but I mean, everybody goes through doubt, and I've been doubting my atheism. Like, that you know, you explore these things, you wonder if there is order to anything. Because, again, it's easy to be dismissive of religion in a purely haughty way when you don't have to risk anything for it, and I have been through the ringer. Again, in large part because of religion, but, like, feeling that sense of community is not easy, because religion has such a monopoly on that. Especially in the United States. I mean, when we have a country where people don't get fed unless they are members of a church, the people who want to get fed will just become members of the church. To just get the food. The Baha'i Faith doesn't do that, but they haven't really participated in large-scale charity drives either. or made a ton of common cause with non-Baha'i organizations. Other than some of the organs at the UN, which fuels the rumors from the Islamic side that they're spies for the West, which causes persecution. So there is some activism. Part of the problem is a chicken and the egg scenario, where if you don't have a large community, you don't have a lot of charitable projects going on, so people don't really know you, so you don't really attract. And when this kind of information can be easily looked up on the internet, it is also very difficult to convince people based on the strength of arguments when you can find criticism pretty easily. Though some of this is getting harder to find, and that's another reason I'm doing this documentary project, is that it is getting incredibly hard to find some of these things. Like, I used to read a lot about Baha'i Rants, a blog from a... Why do they have fire? Why do they have fire? Why do they have fire? Ah! Ah, nuts. Well, I suppose that about wraps it up. I'll just keep my progress going another time and tell you that that I will be progressing on this documentary, and I hope you will join me.